Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to talk about the Unreal development environment a little more so you understand what it is. But firstly, we're going to get the Unreal editor actually downloading in the background. Even if Visual Studio or Xcode is still downloading, let's get it all downloading so that we're not waiting, because these things can take a while. So see you in there. So regardless of whether your Visual Studio has finished downloading or is still downloading, I want you to now go ahead and download Unreal Engine in the background as well, because that's going to take a while. Then we'll continue to talk about the whole system and the whole architecture while that's downloading. So what I want you to do is just type into into Google, get Unreal. And where you're trying to go is just simply unrealengine.com. Now, pretty much the moment you get there, you're going to be asked for an Epic account. You're going to need that. So if you've got one, sign in. And if you haven't got one, then sign up for an Epic account. And when you've done that, it will download an installer called the Epic Games Launcher. I want you to open that and then try and install Unreal Engine yourself. I want you to get a little bit responsible for being able to do your own things. It's a pretty simple process. So here's your challenge. This is your first challenge in the course, is to start the Unreal Engine download. A slide like this means I want you to pause the video, get the Epic Games Launcher, sign in or register for Epic, get the Unreal Engine 4.10 or higher downloading, and then carry on watching the video the moment it's downloading. Or if you're stuck, carry on watching, because I'm about to show you how to do it. But please get in the habit right from the beginning of this course of pausing the video when I ask you to do a challenge and trying to solve things yourself. Cool, welcome back. So let's just make this happen. So in my case, I already have an Epic Games account. What I need to do is I just need to sign into it. So I use a tool called LastPass for that. There we go. And then I'm going to click on Get Unreal. And then I'm going to ask to get the Unreal Engine. So you click download. Now you think that you're going to be getting yourself a big engine downloading, but you find that what comes down very, very quickly is the Epic Games Launcher. So we run that, install. And this is quite small. It's quite a small launcher. It's not just for Unreal Engine. It's for other Epic Games products as well, like their past and future games and other projects they have on. So we use the Epic Games Launcher. We wait until it installs, but also updates. You might well have to wait for the Epic Games Launcher to update. And then click on the right one. Then it's going to ask you to log in again. So in my case, this is Unreal at bentristram.com. Now I need to go get my password from my password management tool, LastPass, and paste it into here. Perfect. All right, so this is the Epic Games Launcher now asking you to sign in. So you have to sign into their website to get the launcher, and then you have to sign into the launcher on your machine. It will probably talk about outdated shortcuts. Just click Fix Now. That's for all of these games that they have. And where you need to go is UE4 and Install Engine.
In actual fact, since Ben recorded this, there have been some changes to the way you install the engine. It's very, very similar. If you go and click Add and go and hit Install, now you also get information about where you're going to install, the location of installing. So you can change the path, but a quick warning, this path can't contain any characters, any non-English characters, any special characters, that sort of thing. It just needs to be very plain alphanumeric Latin alphabet characters. This is the same for when you create your project names. Basically, the Unreal Engine can't handle any complex characters. So just bear that in mind, and you will be reminded again when you are creating your first project.
So congratulations if you worked out how to do that. It's pretty simple. I know, small steps in the beginning. It's amazing how we're taking you guys from nothing potentially, or even experienced programmers, right up to programming in industry strength tools in C++. So this is downloading, and your Visual Studio may still be downloading or may have finished. But regardless, there's a few things I want to talk about while we wait for this to download. So here we go. You've done this download challenge. Let's move on to the next slide. So here's an overview of the install time scale. So this is on an SSD with 100 megabit per second internet connection. There's a lot of text there, but basically Visual Studio is going to take an hour or so. Xcode is going to take 45 minutes or so. The Epic Games Launcher you just saw pretty quick. But then the Unreal Editor is going to take an hour or so. Handy conversion for you, just a bit of an extra to the course. If you were to use Wolfram Alpha, it will helpfully convert things for you. So Wolfram Alpha is a fantastic tool for doing calculations, and I'll make quite good use of it during the course. Because if you say things like 13 gigabytes at 10 megabits per second, it reiterates the assumptions about what you've said, which is cool, and then gives you really useful units here. So 2 hours 53. So that's a bit of a bonus and an aside for the course. you've got your things downloading. Let's talk a little bit more about the ecosystem. So, very bright, wow, that didn't dazzle you. Unreal Engine runs on both Windows there and on macOS at the bottom right. So the engine itself will run on both. It will also run on other platforms, for instance Linux, but you'll have to build your own engine, and we're not going to be covering that. But if you're a Linux guy, then you can probably handle it, I'm sure. So if you're on Windows, you're going to be using Visual Studio. You could use a different IDE or integrated development environment. You could even indeed write all your code in a text editor. The thing that something like Visual Studio or on a Mac, Xcode does for you is it helps you write code faster and more accurately. It suggests code, it knows something about your code, and it helps you just write it quicker and more accurately, and even discover things that you can do in your code. You'll see that later. And then those things, the common thing is the file system, right? So Visual Studio and Xcode write their compiled code, their processed code onto your file system for Unreal Engine to read. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about Windows and macOS. So about 20% you, I estimate, are using macOS. I've got a Mac, I'm very keen on the Mac, but I am doing this whole thing on the Windows. Let me explain why. macOS forces you really to use Xcode. There are other tools, but Xcode is the standard. You can't refactor on Xcode. That means you can't refactor C++. Refactoring means renaming, basically. And one of the most important things in computer science is renaming. In fact, somebody said all problems in computer science come down to renaming and cache coherency, which we'll understand later. But you can't refactor properly in Xcode. And that's a nightmare when we're learning, because we really want to be able to rename things quickly. But, you know, there are ways you can find and replace. You can manually go through. The other thing about using macOS is the Oculus SDK isn't supported, the software development kit for the Oculus Rift VR headset, and Macs don't meet the Oculus Min spec at the moment, unless you're running a naughty Hackintosh. So you could, in the middle column here, run a Windows virtual machine on a Mac, and that's fine. You can then use Xcode, you can do your refactoring. You can run the Oculus SDK, but it might be a bit slow, but you probably still won't meet the Oculus Min spec. And finally, the best choice really is to get Windows, and then everything is green. Whether you meet the Oculus Min spec depends on your graphics card mainly. Look at their website for the details, but it's a GTX 970 as the minimum. Don't worry about that now, that's much later in the course. So choosing your operating system, I would suggest the best choice is a Windows running on a PC or a Mac. PC is the very top choice because of the performance. Second choice would be Mac using Xcode, and the third choice would be something else, Linux or some other integrated development environment, or even a text editor, which we won't be supporting or covering. But if you know what all that means, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you'll be doing it anyway because you're stubborn. See lecture resources for further reading. So against the Udemy lectures, that are resources with clickable links. Take a look at those because there's some further reading. So that's all I want to cover in this video. In the next video, we're going to check on the progress of our IDE download, and hopefully it's nearly there and we can get it installed and running and write our first C++ code. See you soon, guys.